Okay, so I just came back from Japan, and when you go to Japan, what do? There's really not much to do except for to look for watches, right? I'm just kidding. There's actually a lot to do in Japan, but of course, as a watch nerd like you or I, once you go there, you kind of do want to, shop around for watches and see what you can find, right? So originally, I did wanted to get a used secondhand Swiss watch for a good price, but of course, even at that good price, I can't really afford it. So I ended up looking at the JDM market. So if you guys don't know, Japan, basically, they have a lot of watches that are Japanese made, of course, but then they have some models that are only available on the Japanese domestic market, or JDM for short, which means that they don't actually come to places like where I live, which is North America. You can technically import it over, but you have to pay import fees and all that stuff. And if you don't want the hassle, then you simply just pay a couple $1,000s to fly to Japan and then buy it directly there. I'm just kidding. Basically, you can go there for a vacation, and once you're there, it's a really good chance to look at some JDM watches, right? So I picked up a couple, and this one I'm particularly excited to show you guys, but we'll save this one for another day. Today, I kind of want to talk about this guy right here, this Casio watch. Okay, so this one, that's upside down. This one I was actually quite excited about because I kind of saw it, people reviewing it and talking about it beforehand, and I kind of had it on my, I don't want to say wish list, but I kind of had it on the back of my mind when I went to Japan, because I was like, maybe I can find this one somewhere along the way when I'm there. And I was super excited to actually see one. I mean, it's not rare or anything, but like, I was just excited to see something that, hey, I saw that on TV kind of a thing, right? That kind of a reaction. So when I actually saw this, I was like, wow, I mean, I got to pick it up because it's actually not a very expensive watch. So this is, actually, I'm wearing it right now. This is the Casio Lineage. Actually, hold on. Let me just look up the model number, because as you guys know, Japanese watches and model numbers, they really name them very well. This is the Casio Lineage LIW-M700D-1AJF. Quite the mouthful. Anyways, inside the box, you basically get some cardboard, not too fancy. You get this little roll-up thing to wrap your watch around. You get the all very important silica gel. You may have to make sure you keep this one. It's very important. And then, of course, you have your links, because I've already sized this watch. You have some instructions in here, rolled up into this little convenient roll. It's all in Japanese anyway, so you really probably don't need this. Unless you know how to read Japanese, which I don't, so there's that. And then there's the warranty and all that stuff. I'm not going to get it out, can't get it out. So there's warranty and stuff like that, but overall it's a very simple package because it's not a very expensive watch. So in total, when I did the conversions and the tax-free of shopping in Japan, it all in all came down to under 200 Canadian dollars. I'm from Canada. Came down to under 200 Canadian dollars, which is quite the steal, I would say, for a watch this good. And that's about all the zoom I can get. So I'll do some close-up shots, but this is quite the fancy watch from Casio. And I say that because I'm actually not a huge fan of Casio watches. I don't really own too many. I have the World Timer, or I think it was called the Casio Royale. I have that one. I think that's a fantastic little watch for the price. But other than that, I really don't have too many Casio watches. I don't have any G-Shocks or anything like that. Just not a huge fan of Casio. But when I saw this watch, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty amazing. Let's just go through some of the details of the watch. It's a stainless steel watch, really well built. It's not too heavy. I'll put the weight of it right here, but it's not too heavy. It's a very manageable weight. As some watches out there are very like top heavy, like head heavy. The actual watch itself is pretty heavy. This one is not. It's very well balanced, and when I put it onto my little dinky 6-inch arm, it's actually very well balanced and fits and feels very comfortable. It has solid end links, and it has solid links in general. These look like three section links, but they're actually connected together, so it's technically just one entire piece all the way through. But it is very comfortable to wear. It doesn't pull hair or anything like that, and it's quite malleable. It's not the best. Like it's It's not like buying a Swiss watch or anything like that, right? But it is good enough, especially for the price you're paying, right? Because at that price, you're typically getting pretty mediocre, especially bracelets on a lot of these watches. That's where they cut some of the costs. You're getting some pretty mediocre to poor quality bracelets. This one is actually not so bad at all. The clasp is stamped, which is kind of to be expected, not too big of a deal here. And the nice thing about stamp clasp is that it is quite low profile, so it doesn't really stick out into the back of your wrist too much, which is a good thing. And again, with this relatively light watch, it does actually balance pretty well. Some watches that are really top heavy, if you have a stamp clasp, then it kind of pulls this way all the time. For this one, it is actually very well balanced, even with the stamp clasp. It has a double push deployment opening thingy-mabob, whatever that's called. And it has two levels of micro adjust, unfortunately. But, I was able to get a good fit on it. I know some people might not be able to do that, but I was lucky enough to get a good fit on it, even with the 2 levels of micro adjust. I took all of the links, except for the ones that you can take out, because as I mentioned, I have a really small wrist of 6 inches to 6 1/4, maybe on a good day. So let's go through some measurements. Okay, I feel like I'm getting better with these calipers. They were a bit of a struggle a while back when I first handled them, but I feel like they're a lot more comfortable with them now. So this watch supposedly comes in at 40 millimeter. Actually, no, 38, yes. So let's just quickly measure that. So edge to edge, side to side, whatever it's called, is 39.3. Oh, maybe it's 39 millimeters. Anyways, 39.2 millimeters from side to side. And if we go lug to lug, which is the dimension that I care most about, for small wrist people, that's usually the dimension you care most about. It's 47.2 millimeters, which is kind of on the brink of what I can wear. It is honestly like maxing out in terms of my size, but it's still okay in a sense. And then there's no crown for this one, and we'll kind of talk about why. But it's pretty cool how there's no crown. It does make the watch wear a little bit smaller, at least I think so. The thickness of it is 11.2, which is a very good size. I think that's thin enough for me, so that's great. And then the lug width is 20 millimeters right there, 20 millimeters. The thing that I really like about this watch is the fact that it's basically a digital watch. So Casio is known for their digital watches, and they're really good at making those. But this is a digital watch kind of disguised as an analog watch. And the reason why I say that is because, as you can see, that there's really no crown on this watch. It's basically just 4 button pushers, very much like the digital watches that Casio or Timex typically release. But the whole interface is basically, it works like a digital watch, even though it has these hands and seconds hands and these little chronograph dials. But it basically works very much the same as a digital watch. You just kind of have to wait a little bit more patiently as things change and move around. So that's what's really cool about this watch. I think, as I mentioned, because of the fact that it doesn't have an actual crown on it, it does wear a little bit smaller. So let me do a quick wrist shot since we're here at it. So my wrist size is 6 inches to 6 1/4. And this is, again, as I mentioned, kind of on the brink of what I can wear. I mean, I typically go for things that are sub 40, sub 38 even when I can. But this one is a little bit over the size of what I would like, but it's still kind of manageable. I mean, I still consider it a little bit big, but it's still, in a way, manageable. I love how the lugs kind of hang down, so it's not too protruding out from the sides, like straight. And I love the fact that it has female end links, and they do, they're relatively short enough that when I put this onto my wrist, it's not too bad at all. And I've been wearing it for the past week or so, and really have no complaints with the fit or comfort at all. Overall, the finishing for this watch is not bad at all. I think this is a very well finished watch. It is mostly brushed from the sides to the edges. All of it is mostly brushed. The brushing does feel a little bit coarse, so it's not like world class or anything like that. But I think, again, for the money you're paying, I think this looks at least really good. The bracelet itself, I feel like it's a little bit different in terms of the brushing compared to the lugs. Just ever so slightly a little bit more polished and shinier on the bracelet compared to the lugs. But again, I don't think it's a huge difference or something that you really notice while wearing it. The middle of each of the links, it has a little section that's polished, which kind of gives it a nice little look and kind of makes it a little bit shinier and a little bit more premium. And it also matches with the overall bezel here, which is fully polished as well. So it does look quite nice. The back of this watch, the case back of this watch is essentially just 4 screws. There, and there. That screws the case back in place. It's not a screw down case back. It's not a push case back. It just basically has 4 screws, very much like those digital watches from Casio or Timex, for example. This case back does protrude out of the watch just ever so slightly, a little bit like that. So it is, it does look a little bit strange when you look at it from the side, having it off your wrist, but when it's on your wrist, it's actually not that noticeable at all. So on top, we have a sapphire crystal, which is very, very nice, especially for the price you're paying for this watch. Again, a lot of times when you're paying these relatively low prices for watches, you typically get mineral crystal, you typically get hollow end links, you typically get hollow links in general. But for this watch, it comes at a premium material build quality, sapphire crystal, solid end links, solid links, not the best links, but they are good enough that it feels very comfortable. You just don't get the milled clasp. So so overall the materials and quality is very good. One thing that I did want to really check out while I got my hands on this watch is the indices on the dial. And from what I've seen prior to going to Japan is that this watch has these floating indices that kind of sit on the chapter ring, and they basically essentially cantilever out and float onto the dial itself. And that is absolutely true. It looks absolutely gorgeous when you see these indices in person. It just looks like a little floating diving boards on a swimming pool, right? You have 12 of them around the clock. Quite magical to see how they're floating like that. It almost looks kind of like they're glued to the actual crystal itself rather than on the dial or on the chapter ring. Speaking of chapter rings, on the chapter ring you have all of the time zones written in a simplified 3-letter font. And that's because this watch also has world time. It also can track different time zones, and that's really cool. And in the dial itself, you basically have this somewhat of a sunburst dial. It's dark gray. Oh, by the way, it's a solar watch, so there's that as well. You don't have to worry too much about the battery. It is not a mechanical watch, but it is what it is. But you don't have to worry about the battery. Solar batteries tend to last for a very long time. Now, a lot of people say that it'll last you a lifetime. Probably not. They probably still need to get changed at some point, but they do last a very long time. But anyways, as I was saying, you get this nice, very mild sunburst dial on the center. I don't even know if I can really even show you. So kind of see it right there. It's a very subtle sunburst on that dark gray surface. And then in the middle there, you have 3 complications for your chronograph. The left one basically shows you your day of the week. So it shows you Monday, Tuesday to Sunday, whatnot. And it also has these little indicators on the side that shows if you're on the alarm setting mode or the timer mode or the world time mode, so you can track a second time zone. And in the middle of that, you have a stopwatch countdown timer. On the right hand side, you have a 24-hour clock for your second time zone, and on the bottom there you have a 24-hour clock for your AM PM for your main time. So there's that. And then on the 4:30 position, you have a date window, which I personally really like. I know a lot of people don't really appreciate date windows. I think date windows are kind of crucial to my lifestyle. I always need to check the date, so it's great that I have it on my watch. You'll notice that on the side there's areas where it shows you things like on and off, and then W and R and Y and N. Basically, how this watch works is as you click this bottom left button right here, it changes to different modes, and you can see what's happening from the response of the second hand. The second hand will start moving around and it will start to point to different things, showing you what exactly is going on. And then the left complication here points to different things as well to show you which mode you're on. So I love the fact that it does that, right? The second hand on this watch, the main one, kind of acts as a pointer, so you can do different things with it. The thing that I love most about it is that once you're on timer mode, once we're on the timer mode, when you start the timer, you actually see that this main second hand actually ticks backwards. That is actually super cool. Oh, sorry, did I get that on the camera? You can see this main second hand actually ticks backwards in reverse because it's in timer mode. So that's super cool. Something that I've never really seen before in a watch. That basically means that the second hand, the main second hand, kind of acts independently. So it's not really tied down to your minute hand or your hour hand as well. It basically works on its own. So that's really neat how that's implemented. Again, it's a little bit complicated in terms of like, a little bit confusing in terms of like getting it to function when you don't really understand how this watch works. But once you get it down, it's actually not too bad. It's mostly just waiting for these dials to move and turn and get into place before you can actually activate or start something. You can hear that after the timer goes off, there's actually a beep, because this watch also works as an alarm as well, so you can hear it beeping and ticking and doing all that stuff. So great little digital watch disguised as an analog watch. So aside from that, you can also set your different time zones. You can set your alarm, and then once you click it back to that again, it's going to go back to your current day of the week and also your current time where you live right now. So I'm going to link up a video from a channel called Quality Time. He does a great job talking about exactly how these pushers work. I think he's going to do a better job than what I can do in terms of explaining it to you guys. So I'm going to refer you to his video. But yeah, I mean, I think if you are somebody who are used to digital watches, it shouldn't be too unfamiliar to you. But if you're somebody like me who doesn't really wear a lot of Casio digital watches and whatnot, it is a little bit of a learning curve, especially the fact that it doesn't have a display that exactly tells you if you're in timer mode or alarm mode or whatnot. Okay, let's do a Lume Shot. So I'm gonna turn off some lights here. Give me 1 second. Okay, lights are off in the room, and I'm gonna basically turn on my flashlight and then just wave this around the watch. Give it a good couple of seconds to charge up, and then voila. Okay, let me lower my exposure a little bit and try this again. So I'm going to do a little bit of a charge, and let's do that like there. Charge this watch up. Make sure it's getting enough juice. And then voila. Okay, maybe you can't see it through this camera. I'll see if I can show you guys a Lume Shot later on. I mean, it's not the best Lume, but it does have Lume, and it's clearly not showing here at all. But yeah, it does have Lume. It's basically on all of the indices, on the outer marker, and on the hour hand, and also the minute hand, there's Lume. While I'm here, I want to show you guys the sunburst dial. So I'm not a huge fan of this, and I think this is maybe my one complaint about this watch. Overall, at the price of, like, as I mentioned, under $200 from what I paid, there's really not too much to complain about. But this sunburst dial is, well, first of all, it's not very sunburst. It's kind of like mild sunburst. So yeah, there's that. But I don't know if I can show you guys. Maybe if I shine a light directly at it, it will make it a little bit easier. So if I shine a light directly at it and show you this sunburst, I want to maybe freeze frame right here so you can see. This sunburst dial, it's not really like a straight sunburst. A lot of times when you have it in certain areas and it catches certain parts of the light, the sunburst on the dial looks like it's curved one way or the other. So supposedly when you have a sunburst, it just kind of shoots out from the center like this. Depending on which side the light is catching it on. But this one is kind of like, it curves like this, it curves like this, or especially around these complications, it kind of has this like curved sunburst, which when I look at it, it looks like the dial surface is, not flat, is slightly crooked or wavy. And I'm not saying it is. I can't really verify unless I open the watch up, which I don't really want to do. But it just makes that, it just kind of gives that illusion that it's not a flat dial. And when I look at it, it looks like it's wrong. You know what I mean? It looks like something happened with quality control, and they warped the dial a little bit. That's what it feels like, at least. So that's one thing that kind of bugs me whenever I look at the sunburst on this dial. But as I mentioned, the sunburst effect is kind of subtle. It's kind of mild, so it's not something that you'll notice all the time. But when you see it, at least for me, it bugs me just ever so slightly. Okay, so let's just put this watch on the wrist and do a wrist shot one more time, even though I did it a couple of times already. Again, this is on my 6 and 6.25 inch wrist. Very small, but kind of on the brink of what I can wear. But overall, I think this size is still very workable, very wearable for me. So I would honestly think that for anybody else out there who has a normal size wrist, this is not a problem at all. This is going to fit very well. It's going to be one of those watches you can wear it as a beater watch. Again, it's solar, so as long as you wear this watch once in a while, it's going to keep ticking on. It's also, it has that radio syncing thing. I forget what it's called, but it syncs to the atomic clock radio, and so it's always going to be relatively on time, and that's why you'll see these like little markers that says on off. You'll see like WR, you'll see this Y and N. It basically allows you to set when you want to sync to the atomic clock, whether it's working or it's not working, etc., etc. So again, watch the video from Quality Time. He does a better job explaining it than I possibly can, or read the manual if you can understand Japanese. As I'm looking online, I see that on Sakura watches, Discover Japan, it's about $278 Canadian. On Sakura watches, oh, there it is. It's $239 USD on Sakura watches. So whatever that conversion is to Canadian. And yeah, on Discovery Japan, it's $278. So it's a little bit more. Probably have to pay for shipping as well, but when I got it, again, it's under $200. You just have to fly over to Japan. But anyways, this is the watch that I recently picked up from Japan. JDM model, Casio Lineage LIW-M700D 1AJF. Such a catchy name, but it is a really good watch. So hopefully this one will be on your radar the next time you visit Japan. I know a lot of people despise quartz watches because of the fact that it just ticks and doesn't have that smooth rotation around the watch. And sometimes when you tick, it doesn't hit all the markers very well. And that's a common flaw with a lot of quartz watches. But I do want to let you guys know and ensure you guys that this watch ticks very well, very accurately. It's super on point, and it hits all the markers extremely, extremely accurately. So I just want to add in this extra shot in here, if you'll just spare another minute with me, and show you guys that, yeah, this secondhand indeed hits all the markers very well. Again, another one of those things that I'm just super impressed with, especially with this watch being under $200. Yeah. And there it goes all the way around. And as it hits that 12 o'clock position, you can see that it's pretty much flawless on every single marker. All right, anyways, bye.